Namaste and welcome to Flutter Appwrite series. In this series, we are building a time tracking application from scratch using Flutter and Appwrite. In the last episode, we learned to set up Appwrite account service and create account for our user in Appwrite. In this episode, we are going to learn to authenticate users using their account credentials. For that, again, we will start by creating a new branch like we did in the previous episode. First, make sure to go back to main and then synchronize changes so that you pull all the latest changes that we did by merging the branches together in GitHub with a pull request, which I have already done. You should see the latest changes with the sign up screen already added in your code. Now, following the same process as previously. However, this time I'm going to do it from a terminal. I'm going to create a new branch. Git checkout -b, that is for new branch, and I'll name it feature login. So we are now switched to new branch feature login. Let's publish this branch in GitHub and begin by adding a login screen. Similar to what we did inside features folder, we will add a login screen. My login screen wizard is built following the similar approach. If you look at it, inside features, I have a login screen folder in which I have login screen.dart, which exports our login screen forms and types. And inside our source folder, we have login form, that is a form. And then we have our login screen, which is a screen and gives us where we can pass in login callback. And finally, login callback is a function that gives us email and password entered by the user. Same as before, let's head over to router and then add our new route for login. For this, I'll simply copy paste the sign up and call it login, and here I'll get login screen.name, which is not yet defined. So here we can just add login. Next, inside the builder, instead of sign up screen, we will return login screen, and here the callback is on login, which will give only email and password. And then we can for now print email and password and comment remove this line and also this line. In our Appwrite class, we need a function to log the user in. Logging in the Appwrite is creating a session. So here we will create a new session which will return a session or a null. Create session with email. Let's call it create email session because Appwrite has a similar name. And here we need to pass string email password, and this should be an async function. I'll simply copy paste this function to make it easy, and here instead of user it will be session, and we'll call account dot create email session, and we don't need user ID, we simply need email and password and not name. And here we'll return session, and if there is an exception we catch, and for now only print error message and return null if there is an error, we don't have a session. All right, so we have our create email session function. So here, when we tap on the login button, what we can do, await appwrite dot email session and pass in the email and password entered by the user. Here we'll get back a session, and here I can print debug print session dot id. Let's print the session id if login is successful. If not, this will be null. All right, also in the sign up section, let's fix this. JSON decode was throwing an error because we needed to map here, and it should be called with a null check operator. We can do something similar here. We can do JSON encode session.toMap, which will print the whole session, or an empty JSON object. All right, so we now have a login screen as well, and in the home screen where we have login button, we go to home page. In the login button, when this is pressed, we can simply do go named login screen dot name. Let us save and hot restart. Let's click on login. We should see the form. Let's add our email, same email that we used in the last video to create our account, and same password. Let me open the debug console here so that we can see the log, and let's tap on login. We have our email and password, and then we can see that session is created. A new session for our user is created. That means the login was successful. Let us improve our login screen, login form, by providing some input decoration. Level, text, email, and let's copy this. Let's make this password. Let's add some gap in between. Height 10, here 20. Let's save it. So we have our login form as well. Let us commit our changes. Allow user to create session. Let's push it. We can go back to GitHub, and using this notification as well, we can create a new pull request for the latest branch. Create a pull request. This should create a new pull request, as well as run our GitHub action, which is going to analyze our code. You can see the changes we made. We changed 7 files. We added a create email session function, and then we added bunch of widgets for login screen, and then we also updated home page to navigate to login screen, and finally we updated router to add a login screen. This is all for today's episode. In this episode, we learned how to create a session for the user using their credentials. When the user has a session, from then on, we can make a authenticated request to the Appwrite server. If we head over to Appwrite server and go to sessions tab, we can now see that a new session has been created for this user on Mac device from this IP and all. That's all. Don't forget to leave your comments regarding my videos. Thank you. See you again in the next episode.